The following podcast contains coarse language and adult themes. This week on the show, it's the tip of the goddamn spear, folks, as we chat in this podcaster's humble opinion, the best thing Marvel Studios has ever done. It's the Netflix... actually, that was our... Shut the fuck up, Disney Plus! It's Daredevil Season 1. I'm Riggs.
And I'm Eddie.
And this is the Film Addicts Podcast. Hey friends, and welcome back to the Film Addicts Podcast. I'm here with Addy. What's up, mate? I like your bright bright orange headphones.
Thank you.
What's happening? Fucking Disney Plus just won't leave us alone. He's like villain number one in this show.
Yeah. He's the villain because they don't have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet.
Do they not? Is that not on there?
No, they have it. It's just not MCU canon, so I'm going to fight.
Oh, okay. Oh, man. As soon as they make that canon, there's going to be so many nerds who lose their fucking minds. Yeah, that's the interesting thing. Move my microphone. Yeah, it started out as like a Netflix joint, this series of Marvel street-level, tangentially related to the Marvel Universe things, with Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage. And then the Defenders series, which came in between Daredevil Season 2 and 3, which we'll talk about briefly when we do our Season 3 catch-up of Daredevil sometime next month. But, yeah, it was funny how they had it, and then Disney's like, we're taking that back. And now he's in a yellow costume in She-Hulk, and what was it? Daredevil Season 2 came out 8 years ago or something. You know, and Charlie Cox is back for a reborn, which is, you know, I'm excited for.
Yeah. After watching the entirety of Daredevil, I've watched his very little appearances in the MCU and loved it. Yeah,
it's a nice little flavor because Daredevil's a really, really good character. We'll get into it a bit more later, but he's my favorite Marvel character. Just like Frank Miller described him as the perfect hard-boiled superhero because he's got so much angst because of his Catholicism. And, you know, he's got these superpowers and he has this, you know, the ability to sort of meditate and heal himself, but he's just a dude. Like, he's not, you know, he's Batman style. He can still get his ass whooped, and he does quite frequently in the program. But before we get into Daredevil Season 1, what's happening, my man? What's been going on with you?
Everything's okay. Really excited for Dune 2. I got one of my friends to watch it, which was not happening until last night, so this is good.
Why is it so difficult to get someone to go and see Dune 2 for fuck out?
They have exams.
Oh, okay. That's a fairly decent excuse.
Yep.
Right, okay. And when are you going?
Hopefully next weekend.
Okay, cool. I won't be able to see it. I was actually just talking to Tommy from the Podcast Assemble podcast, who will be guest appearing on our Dune 2 episode. We're very excited to have him on for the first time, as I've been on his show so much that I'm a resident, a long-standing resident. That's a guest resident. And yeah, he's going to be coming on, and he was saying he's seeing it this week. I probably won't have a chance to for another week or two, just because I'm pretty busy with production stuff, but we'll make it happen. Yeah, Double Dune. It's going to be exciting. They've Dune it again.
Fuck yeah.
That'll be the name of the episode, everybody. Just a little heads up for you all. I don't know what you want to talk about, but perhaps we should talk about what we've been...
Let's, yeah. That.
Yep, good. What are we...
watching?
What do you tell me what you've been watching? I want to know.
So I did something.
Every time you say that, it sounds like the next thing that you're going to say is going to be pornographic.
Okay.
At best.
Okay, let's do this right now because I don't know from where you get that. Because that's...
It just sounds like I did something. Oh my God, I got to tell you about it. It was porno. I don't know. Dirty mind, I guess.
I've never once done that.
Never done any porno? I was shooting something in the city the other day for a fucking global aid agency, like a charitable agency. And we were shooting some stuff with this sponsor person. and a guy in a wheelchair came past. I'm only saying that he was in a wheelchair because he was in a wheelchair, not because I'm insinuating that people in wheelchairs are all creeps. That's not the case. But this guy was. He was like, "Ugh, what are you shooting, a porno?" And I didn't say anything because I was working for other people, but I wanted to go, "Would you fuck off?" No, of course we're not shooting a porno. For starters, there's only one person there. Was it a JOI, for crying out loud? And for second, he's completely clothed. What kind of shitty porno is this? Anyway, so what was the silly thing that you did?
Tweet. The fuck.
You tweet?
No, to be quite honest though, all porno start with people clothed, and then shit happens.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch them backwards, they all end up sitting around a table having tea. It's lovely. It's a Billy Connolly joke. Anyway, what was the thing?
Right.
I must know.
Okay, so I did a thing last week called Week at the Movies, where I watched at least one film in theaters in the entire week.
Awesome.
So I started with a special screening of Nope in theaters, which I never got to see. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was also like really fucking terrifying watching it at 2 a.m.
Was it 2 a.m.? My God.
I came out of it at 2 a.m.
Oh, right. Were there any strange clouds in the sky that you were a little suspicious of?
No. And I watched Anatomy of a Fall next.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's getting a lot of play at the moment. How was it?
It's pretty good. I don't understand like the hate it's getting, but again, I don't understand any hate. So
yeah, I don't really pay attention to that stuff. I don't even really read reviews anymore. I'm on Letterboxd, but I just do it for myself. Reading other people's reviews makes me sad.
Yeah, I haven't seen, read, or even heard a single Dune 2 review.
I read one today that was like 5 stars anyway, but it was only because it was Andrew Jupins from the We Hate Movies podcast, and I tend to agree with him on most stuff. What was the other thing? Was it just those two?
No.
I feel like you saw other things.
Right, and the following day, I started my day with Mean Girls, the musical.
Spectacular.
Written by Tina Fey. I
think she wrote the original one too, like the OG one from back in the day with the Lindsay Lohans.
This one was surprisingly good, and I really, really enjoyed it. And what followed was Madam Web.
Pretty funny because yesterday, March the 1st, our Morbius episode dropped, and we predicted that Madam Web might be alright, but Addy agrees with me, and if you'd like to hear my opinion, I'm not soury about it, or anything like that. But if you want to hear my opinion of it, jump over to the Podcast Assemble podcast and have a listen to their episode on Madam Web, on which I guested. And yeah, it's a movie technically.
Yep, it exists somehow.
Yeah, it's in the world. It was just a really big misstep, I think, and also we were talking about it, how the idea was that. The original idea, according to Dakota Johnson or somebody, was that the script was originally her teaming up with those 3 girls to protect an infant Peter Parker from Ezekiel, which is a much better idea. But shit happens.
Yeah.
Whatever. Come on, Craven. Let's reset. Hard reset.
Let's hope Craven is good.
I mean, it looks pretty fucking good to me. I'm interested.
True. Of all the Sony Spider-Man movies, that one looks in like just the visual tone. It looks a lot like Morbius, which is a good thing. Yeah,
it's also directed by I think it's J.C. Chandor, who's got a really fucking good like resume of pictures. Like he directed A Year of Living Violently and something Frontier that was on Netflix that had. Oscar Isaac and Ben Affleck in it, something or other Frontier. I can't remember that. I could look it up, but I can't be bothered. Rather talk to you. But yeah, he's got a good resume of stuff, and it's just, and then they hand you a comic book movie. I don't know. It's a weird environment. We were talking about that last night because I watched Jaws again with my friends because one of them had never seen it. And, it's always a good time to watch Jaws. And just thinking about that being the progenitor of the blockbuster and how it was the first film where they started putting posters out, in the 1970s, every week in the newspaper to say how much money it had made, and now that's all we talk about is box office and opening weekend and all that shit. And it's such a ridiculous metric for whether or not a film's good. Like, a film can be fucking horrendously shitty, or just for kids. Like the Paw Patrol movie recently made $1 bazillion because, that doesn't speak to the level of its quality. It's just there's a lot of people going to see it. Lots of people go to see Fast and Furious movies, and they are like, that is
adult cartoons.
It is brain aneurysm the movie. Those things, Yeah, they're adult cartoons, and nothing wrong with adult cartoons. I rewatched The Fifth Element recently, and that's an adult cartoon. But yeah, it's just strange. Anyway,
sure.
Fuck Madam Web.
Yes. Like fucking. Was there anything truly?
Truly fuck it, as opposed to just do it on the sly, or just talk about doing it. You didn't actually do it,
Yeah.
Anyway, so was there anything else?
Yeah. So Madam Web was so bad that it rid me of like formulating thoughts altogether. For like, I'm not kidding. I couldn't function. It was that bad.
It's got some stuff. I don't want to say anything and ruin anything. So go and see Madam Web if you feel like you need to.
Yeah, so I reset and watched Argyle again, and I liked it even more.
Right. Yeah, another one where it's getting bad reviews and doing bad box office, but everybody I talk to who's seen it says they really like it, so I don't know what the gauge is anymore,
And then lastly, I watched 3 movies in one day, which is The Iron Claw, Poor Things, and Logan. And those were all 5 stars.
That's a good day. That is a fucking good day.
Yeah. Yeah, Iron Claw was good. I was bawling like a baby, and I went and hugged my brother, and the only people who will understand why I did that are the people who watched that film.
They've seen it, yeah. Yep.
And yeah, Poor Things was amazing, and I kind of want to like watch it again because I adore it so much. Like, so much. And Willem Dafoe is so amazing in that.
He's spectacular. So is Mark Ruffalo. That's a version of Mark Ruffalo you've never seen before. He's just like this slimy dude, who's kind of a big baby. It's just fantastic. And Emma Stone, like, it starts out really peculiar, because she's like a child, but by the end of it, it's such a brilliant hero story. Yeah, I loved it. I'll definitely be purchasing the 4K of that one.
Oh, dude. Also, you know how much I love just like sky and scenery, and oh my god, like there were colors moving in the sky the entire time in this film.
It's so like particular as well because it's not the past and it's not really the future either. It's this weird alternate version of this universe. It's kind of like, it reminded me of European comics, like something from 2000 AD or Valerian or one of those sort of more 1980s 1990s European comic book series, just because of its strange science fiction quirk. But yeah, I loved it. I'm a huge Yorgos Lanthimos film. I don't think there's a film of his I've seen that I didn't like. I think the only one I haven't seen is Dogtooth. But yeah. Anyway.
But yeah,
there's some, and then Logan.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fantastic and has also prompted us to do.
Yeah.
We're going to go back and redo some episodes. We didn't really talk about Logan that much though because we did sort of like episodes on the X films, but didn't cover them individually. So we're going to circle back and have a chat about Logan, especially with Deadpool 3 coming out soon. Deadpool and the Wolverine.
Now, it's the true original title is Wolverine an Asshole, and that will always be
I mean, those two guys who better to have market your picture, really, I was watching some stuff, but not much because I've been extraordinarily busy. So the first thing I rewatched was Peacemaker Season 1, and it fucking slaps. I'm sorry, that is hands down the best DC thing that they did. I fucking love it. That and Birds of Prey just tickle my funny bone. I have no idea how they got away with it. No, I'm serious. There's a lot of really offensive jokes, but they come out of Peacemaker's dad's mouth, who's a Klansman, basically. So you kind of get away with it. He uses the F word at one point, and I don't mean fuck. I mean the gay slur. And John Cena, I was saying it to you guys in our pod chat. He is basically good Mark Wahlberg. Like, Mark Wahlberg is a shitty actor. That TED TV series is quite good because he's not in it. You know? But anyway, regardless of Mark Wahlberg, John Cena is so good in that, and the cast around him is awesome. The woman who plays Adebayo is really great. Give her a series, and I love his flavor. Like, Gunn either uses really wide lenses to capture action, or and goes all handheld and stuff, or he's quite measured. And I like the dichotomy of the two sort of styles. It kicks things off really interestingly, and yeah, so I dig that a lot. The other thing I rewatched was Jaws. So friends of mine came around for dinner last night, and we were actually going to watch Saving Private Ryan because they'd never seen that. And we were sitting there, and I have a Jaws poster in my living room, and my mate Tyler was like, I've never seen Jaws, actually. And I was like, I'm sorry, Saving Private Ryan is on pause. We're putting on Jaws. And I loved it. And something that stuck out again, I've seen that movie 170,000 times. And one thing that stood out this time is when Hooper accidentally pulls the wrong rope when they're on the Orca, and the foreshadowing of the oxygen tanks. And they kind of roll away, and Hooper's like, "What are you doing? These things will explode." And he's like, "Well, why there?" He goes, "You pulled the wrong rope." And then Quint's just sort of sitting there in his chair, and he's like, don't know what the shark could do with all that fancy stuff you got there, Mr. Hooper. Might eat it, I suppose. I saw one eat a rocking chair one time. And I was like, under what fucking circumstances did you see a shark eat a rocking chair? What was it on the boat? Who has a rocking chair on a boat? You know what I mean? Like, that, it was wild. And another thing, it just stood out to me, in the 4K, I just caught that word and was like, a rocking chair? Really? Anyway, I'd also had a lot of Oreos, so I was quite sugar high. But, yeah, Jaws is a perfect film. And I said to Addy, look, we're going to have to talk about it at some point because he recently watched it as well. And there's no other way to do it than to do it as a watch-along, as a commentary. So we'll probably do that. In the coming months, we're going to do a Jaws watch along where me and Addy are just going to watch it at the same time and chat about it, and then you can sync it up if you want to watch Jaws with us, or maybe you just want to hear us talk guff. If you know it as well as I do, you don't actually need the visuals. You can do it in your head with the sound. Taylor Tomlinson's new stand-up special, Have It All, is fantastic. She's one of the most interesting comedians working at the moment. She's so honest and so darkly funny and sharp, and she really is looking for answers. She's a young woman in search of she's a young person. It doesn't matter if she's a woman. She's a young person in search of answers, which is something that you do when you're, stretching towards 30. You want to know where you're at, and I appreciate her style so much, and that honesty and that clarity. And she makes me laugh out loud, like cackle. There's not a lot of comedians that really do that. Just love her. And lastly, I've been re-listening to the Kevin Smith, when he first started podcasting, had a show called Fat Man on Batman. It's now called Batman Beyond, or Fat Man Beyond, I think. And it's just him and the writer Mark Bernardin reviewing films and talking about stuff. But back in the day, he would just interview people who had some sort of relationship to Batman, whether it was, Kevin Conroy or Bruce Timm or Paul Dini or Scott Snyder, like writers and artists, people who did the voices on the cartoons, all sorts of people. And one of the people he talked to was Grant Morrison, who's one of my favorite writers of all time. Not just comic book writers, he's one of my favorite writers. I've read a lot of what he's done, most of what he's done. I have a stack of his work, set aside because I go back to it so often. And on YouTube, you can find it. There's a 4-hour interview with Grant Morrison that Kevin Smith did on his show, which is 3 episodes sort of stitched together. And it's just, it makes you want to be a better writer. Like, he's just such a thoughtful, ingenious kind of dude. And it came at a weird time too, because I had the power outage and I was looking for something to do while I was, didn't have any power. So I had access to this podcast, and was listening to that while I was doing it. And I'd started rereading his book, Super Gods, which is half biography, half, metaphysical text on how superheroes are kind of, a huge part of our culture. But it's also about comics history and shit. So if you get a chance, just go on YouTube and type in Grant Morrison interview Fat Man on Batman, and you'll see this big chunky interview with him, which is just fantastic, where he talks about Batman and the work that he's done in ways that he breaks down the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Strikes Again comics in a way that no one ever has before. He was the one who also said, the moment that Batman is created is also the moment he asks for help. Like, he's sitting in the chair in year one, and he's had the shit kicked out of him, and he's bleeding out, and he goes, if I ring this bell, Alfred will come and heal my wounds, but I'm not going to do it because I failed, and I'm a failure, and I'm failing my parents. And the bat crashes through the window, and he says, yes, Father, I'll become a bat. And he's got this symbol, and he has his journey begins. And the first thing he does is ring that bell. The first thing he does as Batman is ask for help. And he talks about getting a second Robin and how it was about him, recapturing his youth, and then it all goes wrong, and Jason Todd and all that kind of stuff, and the Cataclysm. Just really, really intelligent, thought-provoking and spiritual musings on these silly characters that we go to the movies to see sometimes. So check out that interview too. I'm gonna send it to you, Addy. I'll send you the link. You would eat it the fuck up, man. Like, you would love it the most. All right, well, let's do a little bit of quick news before. Hang on. Literally, a picture of Sydney Sweeney came up, and I got completely distracted. I'm not even kidding. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so one did it. Beep, beep. I've become Mumbles from fucking Dick Tracy. Do you want to do the nerd news?
Yep, let's do the fucking nerd news, man.
Awesome. Diddle there. Okay, in this week's nerd news, we'll just go through a few things. This is one we needed to catch up on. They've cast Fantastic Four with Pedro Pascal as your main man, Mr. Fantastic. Vanessa Kirby will be playing Sue Storm. Joseph Quinn will be playing the Human Torch. And is it Ibon Moss?
Yeah. Ibon Moss.
Barkruck?
Yeah, Ibon Moss.
Ibon Moss Barkruck?
Yep.
That's a fucking cool name. Will be playing the Thing in motion capture. That's a pretty cool cast. Like, I'm not sad about that at all. I don't know how people are feeling about it out there on the internet, because I don't really pay attention to shit like that. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, just mostly theories on, like, the way they announced it was way 60s-esque. Like, it was a 60s Valentine's Day card.
I saw that, yeah.
And it's, like, the Thing is also reading, like, the Time magazine that has, like, President Nixon's, well, not Nixon, but the one before him. One of the presidents of the US
mm-hmm.
on the poster, or, like, on the magazine. It looks 60s-esque, but I don't know if I'm fully sold on that idea. But also, we don't know if the film is going to be, like, set in the 60s or not. That's just how they announced it.
I did read that they're going to be focusing on like Fantastic Four and X-Men are going to be leading the phases moving forward, because the Avengers is sort of dropping off, and I think they need a hard reset anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, congratulations to all those people who were cast. Very good news. The Midnight Suns film is reportedly in the works, with Marvel eyeing Michael Giacchino to direct.
I don't know, dude. Do you remember, like, when we did the Werewolf by Night episode with?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's been going on since then.
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh, I just heard it again now.
Like, sure, Michael Giacchino doing the Midnight Suns would be cool. If we have like fucking Daredevil and Blade and
The Punisher.
Yes, him too.
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
Doctor Strange.
let's not have Doctor Strange in that. Let's
my balls. Sorry.
Yes, like 13 episodes of just that.
Of my balls. That'd be the fucking. Do you want to do that, Disney? Nah, we've got so many balls on our channel. Don't even worry about it, mate. I'm serious. All right, thanks for chiming in again. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Like, I don't really have any skin yet. It's funny though, because we did talk about for this season we weren't going to do as much nerd stuff, and now we did Morbius, and now we're doing Daredevils back to back and shit. Oh well, whatever.
We're nerds. Like,
we are nerds.
If you're here on this episode in season, like you're already a season deep. Like, we're nerds.
Yeah, absolutely. Just quickly, there's apparently 4 Marvel films to be set for release in 2025. Captain America 4, which is called New World Order, I think, Feb 14th. Thunderbolts May 2nd, which they haven't even started fucking filming yet, as far as I understand. Fantastic Four, July 25th, and Blade, November 7th. Horse shit. None of that's going to happen. None of that is going to come out the way that they think it's going to come out.
The Thunderbolts started filming like yesterday.
All right.
It's Brave New World now. And yeah, I'm not so sure about the Fantastic Four, but they are going into production this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And if they stick with that date, that's a week after Superman.
Is that right?
Yep.
That's ballsy.
Yeah, but like
Superman's
also,
going to eat the internet alive.
The Blade film is not going to come out till 2076.
Yeah, I mean, Mahershala Ali, and then sorry, Mahershala Ali is going to have to become an actual vampire in order to be able to fucking do that picture.
And then it's going to be written and directed by Christopher Nolan because he'll be an actual vampire.
Well, no, Christopher Nolan's just going to use. He's going to invert time and come back and do it again. You know, he's going to be like the Robert Pattinson's character in that. You know, we get up to some stuff. All right. Well, now that you said Superman, that started shooting yesterday, so March 1st, which is also Superman's birthday, his 86th birthday, I think it was, and they revealed the logo. And it's. I remember I said to you because they had a legacy table read back a few weeks ago or something like that, and on the chairs at the table read they had the Superman logo, and it was the Kingdom Come logo with the more sort of sharper, less curvy S and the black behind it, and it seems like that's the way they're going. I said to you, I was like, I bet they're going to have that particular logo, but it'll still be the yellow at this point until they get to that particular storyline. And that's what it is. Surrounded by frost. He's obviously at the Fortress of Solitude. But yeah, it's just the new shield at the moment. And it's kind of whatever. We'll see what it's going to be. But people are losing their fucking minds. Superman filled my feed yesterday in a way that he hasn't in millennia.
That's always good.
Yeah. It was good. It was great. There was some really great art and some fan art, which I really dig. A lot of cool artists sort of chiming in. Jim Lee had some stuff to say about it. Yeah, whatever. As long as I get some more Superman and Lois in my feed, I'm happy. And Addie couldn't have cared less. And then Rachel Brosnan? She put out a TikTok thing of her with David Cornsweet and Nicholas Hoult with the bald head, and being silly to the theme of Superman, the John Williams theme. And Addie was like, all right, okay, maybe I need to be a little bit more positive. And yeah, we never know. I guess we'll find out. We'll find out at some point.
Yeah, hopefully it's good.
And if it isn't, whatever, there's another one coming, or there's the ones that we already have. I still go back to Chris Reeves' Superman once or twice a year because it fucking rules.
I did that too the other day.
Such a beautiful film.
There's something about just the Superman in that film that like you don't need to know anything. You just know he's Superman and you believe it. You believe that the man can fly.
It's Chris Reeve. Like he sells it so hard because his performance as Clark and Superman is so different, and the whole beginning, like the perfect sort of 3-act nature of that film. Your prologue being in Krypton, and then your first act being this sort of Norman Rockwell style Americana in Smallville, and then he's in he's in Metropolis, for Act 2, and then Act 3 is sort of like the cataclysm that happens after Lex Luthor sets off the nuclear weapons. It's just so wonderful to go back. They took it seriously. They were like, this is a real thing, as opposed to now where it's just they're just commodities. Anyway, never mind Superman. Let's talk about some Devil Men. It's Daredevil season 1 from all the way back in I think it was would have been 2015 or 2014 the first season came out. Just came out of fucking nowhere. It's like, really? You're going to do those characters when you've got the Avengers doing a bunch of stuff already? And I've been deep in the bag for Daredevil for years. Kevin Smith did it when Marvel got taken over. We didn't get taken over. Marvel changed its CEO in the early 90s to Joe Quesada, who was actually an artist. Him and Jimmy Palmiotti, who'd worked together on Ash and a bunch of other things for I think it was Epic Comics or something, an imprint they created. And Quesada had done some work with DC and some Batman stuff and some stuff on the Ray and whatever. And Palmiotti was his inker. They got tapped to take over Marvel, and one of the first things they did was revamp almost everything. It's the reason Grant Morrison took over the X-Men, and it became a science fiction book as opposed to a superhero book. It was really an exciting, inventive time. And one of the things they did was launch a series called Marvel Knights, which was a more grown-up version of these characters that are street-level characters. Jessica Jones had a series, and The Punisher had a new series, and Daredevil had a new series, and it was written by Kevin Smith, and it was the death of Karen Page story, and it is still one of the best Daredevil stories of all time. And I got it because I really like Joe Quesada's artwork, and he drew it, and I just fell in love with the character. Went back and read the Frank Miller stuff, Born Again, and his run, The Death of Elektra. And that series, which I collected up until it finished, was taken over by a bunch of artists. David Mack took over, Ed Brubaker, and famously Brian Michael Bendis wrote a huge chunk of that in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, and it's exceptional work, and I go back to that series quite a lot. But for and it had a lot of influence on the Daredevil TV show. Charlie Cox, of course, as Daredevil. Matt Murdock, just probably the most perfectly cast Marvel person ever, along with Vincent D'Onofrio was Wilson Fisk, amazing. Deborah Ann Wool as Karen Page, again, incredible casting, and Eldon Henson as Foggy Nelson as our sort of main kind of folks. Frank Castle, obviously played by John Bernthal in season 2, but we'll get to that next week or next fortnight. Let's just have a chat about it. You put it off for a long time. What was it that sort of brought you to it this time?
It was mostly just you and just how much you talked about it. I was like, I should watch it. I should probably watch it.
I had a good influence on people when it comes to stuff like that. I make them watch Daredevil and Jaws.
That's true.
Yeah. And so what was Addy was messaging me throughout his watch of it, and he was just like, oh my God, this is happening. And it really is, it's cliffhanger TV. If it hadn't been put on Netflix, people would have been chomping at the bit to watch the next episode, because it just, really leaves you hungry for the next episode in a way that old TV used to, as opposed to, now it's common for streaming services to dump the entirety of a season onto whatever their service is. But that week by week kind of watching is coming back. I think that would have worked well for Daredevil because it is so cliffhanger based.
Yeah, true. It also came around the time where the transition from traditional weekly TV to binge was happening, which is why things like Stranger Things, 13 Reasons Why, House of Cards became so popular.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's definitely, for me, I'm not joking when I say I feel like it's the high watermark. This is my favorite thing that Marvel's done. You can like even Endgame and like the big Marvel movies that are just so great. This just gets me. I think Matt is such an interesting character. Again, because of the dichotomy of a lawyer who is also a Catholic being a vigilante and feeling guilty for it, but also knowing that he has to do it because no one else can. The sacrifice of that. And also, yeah, he's got superpowers and he can do flips and stuff and whatever, but there's episodes where they really talk about his blindness as well. He sees the world, it's a world on fire, and he sees the world in echoes and mists, and it's not the way that we see, and it's certainly not easy. There's the in season 2, just jump ahead a bit, where they're having the fight with the hand, him and Elektra, and he's like, I can't. These guys don't have heartbeats. I can't read them. And Stick says to him, focus on the sound of their weapons. Like that kind of fucking shit, man. I love that. I love that ingenuity of building a problem for a character and then having them solve it in a way that, because they are, they have a problem. He can't, it's like the Hulk. He can't control his anger, but he actually can. He's always angry. Like that, when you solve that problem, it's really interesting.
Yeah. So season 1 of Daredevil is it's split well in establishing the present world of where Matt lives, and like what happened to make him the way that he is, and like it's so weird that we got a show about this vigilante, but at the core of it, it's a show about abandonment and like self-loathingness. Like Matt hates himself
a lot, yeah,
and
he blames himself for his father's death.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of that in season 3. I think season 3 is my favorite. We get to that when we do, but
it's so good. It's one of those shows that gets consistently better.
Yeah, I think the Charlie Cox is like one of my favorite actors to be like cast in an MCU role ever. Like, you know how much I love the X-Men? He's up there with fucking Hugh Jackman for me. Like, Robert Downey Jr. is not even in the fucking category of that.
Robert Downey Jr. is synonymous and famous for being Iron Man, but if it had been someone else, it might not have been as good, but that person would have got just as famous. The product is what is sells him. I think Cox is just physically he's right. I mean, Matt's generally like a sort of a ginger Lothario in the comics, but he kind of has the physicality. Like he's an acrobat, really. An athlete as opposed to a muscle man, and he's a martial artist, and he's also incredibly set upon. Like his mother leaves him. He goes blind. His father is murdered. Stick comes in, trains him a little bit, and then abandons him when they start. He starts feeling things for him. He's constantly fighting his purpose, and it's like an alcoholic. Like he can't not do it. Every night he goes out there and does it, and he has to. And it's interesting that in the first season, for the entirety of the season until the very, very end of the last episode, he's in the black costume. He's in the stocking, over the head, and I was sort of, I remember talking to my mate Mitch, who runs All Star Comics in Melbourne, and we were talking about it, and I was like, what do you reckon? He's like, dude, fucking Frank Miller's Man Without Fear, like that series, the Born Again series. That's how he starts, and I grew to love it so much so that I kind of dig that more than the actual armor costume, which I think is really cool that he has it built by the guy who plays who's the character in the comics? He's got saws that he shoots out of his thing. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the character, but it's played by this guy. He plays him as sort of a little bit kind of on the spectrum, which is really interesting. And how he's like just wants to protect the person that he loves, and he gets builds this great costume, which we'll talk about a bit more season 2 because he wears it more. But yeah, I really like the vulnerability of Matt. Like he does not care about himself or his body. Like he's willing to put it on. Like, you know the line in the last Batman film, Dark Knight Rises, where she's like, "You've given these people everything. You know, you don't owe them anything." He's like, "Not everything, not yet." Like Matt goes out there every night and gives his city everything, which is quite funny because he talks about, you know, Hell's Kitchen this and Hell's Kitchen that, and you know, if you talk to an actual New Yorker, they're like, "What do you mean that's 6 blocks?"
Yeah.
Like it's actually a really small area. You know, Kingpin can fucking have it. It's totally fine. But yeah, I think Matt's his inability to give up, you know, get knocked down 7 times, get up 8, is really, really powerful as a character motivation.
Yeah, that's like, sure, he has heightened senses and all that, but that's his superpower. That he will get up no matter what. And Jesus, it's not present a lot in season 3, or like season 2 and season 3. Season 3 is a different thing, and it like a little bit of that is present, but like just the heavy breathing in every fight scene that Charlie Cox is doing, just to show how exhausted he is, but like he's not giving up. Like, oh my god,
he's so human. Even after, you know, he has the fight with Nobu and gets cut to shit and ends up in Claire's house. Claire is the night nurse, and also ends up being his lover at one point, played by the fantastic Rosario Dawson, she walks between the raindrops, man. Like she's in that, she's in fucking Star Wars. You know, she just does the voice of Wonder Woman for the animated shows. She's such a super nerd. I love her. And what an incredible actress. I recently rewatched 25th Hour, the Spike Lee picture that she's in, and just what a incredible performance that is. But yeah, she ends up in her apartment because he ends up in a dumpster.
Yeah,
he jumps out of a window and gets found by one of the neighbors. And, you know, where his lung nearly collapses and she's helping him and all that stuff, and he's healing himself, and he can heal himself faster by meditating as well. And then he ends up on the roof threatening that the Russian mobster, and ends up pitching him off the roof, and then finding out where the girl is. And he uses the rope that he strung the guy up with to wrap around his fists. And then he turns up in that hallway with the rope around his fists, and he beats her. I mean, a famous one that they do in that, which is, you know, there's some trick edits there and some stitching and stuff, but it's just incredible. And yeah, he's knackered. He's absolutely knackered because it's really fucking hard. I had boxing this morning, boxing training this morning, and we do 5 3-minute rounds each, and then we switch. We're like, you know, one person's punching, the other person's padding, and then we switch. And by the end of it, I was fucking wrecked. That's why I needed a few extra minutes before we started, because I was fucking out of breath. And I wasn't even fighting for my life. I was just fighting my little sister-in-law, you know? And she's formidable, don't get me wrong, but she's not actually trying to hurt me. Yeah, incredible performance. And I love he kind of yells. He's like, ugh! He's kind of pained, but he's also angry. And that's the thing about Matt. He's so angry. And he's so measured and calm, but underneath he's like a duck, you know. It's all nice and smooth on the surface, and then underneath these legs are going fucking ape shit, you know, just trying to keep up. And then when he finds in Wilson Fisk his enemy, he feels like it's almost like a light at the end of the tunnel, because he's like, if I can stop him, then I've done it, and he can't, because Wilson Fisk is too big. He's too powerful. He has too much reach. He's been doing it longer. You know, he's been a murderer since he was a child. You know, the fantastic flashback episode to his childhood. And he's a professional criminal, but also one who thinks that he's doing good, thinks that he's righteous. You can't fight fanatics. It's impossible. When someone believes in what they're doing, it's not like he's just a criminal because he needs money. No, he thinks he's going to make the world a better place by blowing up half of Hell's Kitchen and destroying his competition. And when Matt realizes that he can't win, when they have that, you know, the conversation on the radio after Matt gets sort of holed up in that building with the Russian gangster, and he sees it. he's like, oh fuck, that wasn't a light at the end of a tunnel. It was a fucking train, you know.
Also, just the creative choice of introducing these two together, or treating their backstories the same way as each other. Like you get that flashback episode for Wilson Fisk in episode 4 of season 1. Like if that was fucking Disney Plus, you wouldn't get that either at all, or the last episode of season 2.
And it's also, it benefits from the longer, it's 13 episodes. I think that works better for something that is broad. Like, it's a crime drama. It's not a superhero show at all. Like, if you're thinking I wouldn't watch that because it's not a superhero show, it's a crime film about organized crime and journalists, and police and corruption and, violence and drug running and human trafficking and all that kind of stuff. It gets a little supernatural when you get into season 2 and Stick comes in and, Elektra and the Hand and all that. And it leans a bit more. But this first is a really raw, gritty, down and dirty, show about good and evil on the base terms that we understand. The kind of good and evil that you see every day. Let's just talk about Fisk for a minute and the portrayal by D'Onofrio. He's my favorite Marvel villain because he's so layered. And there's so much texture to that. There's some textures. He's got textures as well. He likes to color in. All red though. He's got so much texture, particularly when you see that history, and you see his daily routine. He gets up and he makes his omelet and he listens to Bach or Chopin or whatever it is, and he gets into his dress and he puts on his father's cufflinks. And he talks very, very stomachly, and he's always holding something back, and he's sort of just, he's Hell's Kitchen, and he's got a real sharpness to his vocal reads, and then he meets Vanessa.
Yeah.
And all of that softens, and he falls in love, and it's beautiful to watch that happen. You kind of root for him a little bit, you don't. And then sometimes you're like, Matt, you're kind of being a dick. Not to Kingpin, but he's kind of being a dick about things and being a bit of a sad sack, whereas Fisk is going out there and controlling his problems and making solutions. And then you see him, he goes to dinner. One of those Russian brothers comes in and interrupts the dinner, and you find out that everybody in that restaurant was a plant.
Yep.
And then Kingpin cuts that guy's head off with a car door. We should preface, this is an MA show. There's no swearing or anything, and there's a little bit of bit of the shush the bad, bit of the heart touch and whistle, whatever it is, bit of dirty stuff. There's a little bit of sexiness going on there, but it's not like you see penetration or anything. That'd be a bit much for Daredevil. But the violence is would it? The violence is
oh yeah,
particularly shocking. And I'd forgotten when in season 2 when Frank just straight up shoots a motherfucker in the face with a shotgun. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I've been so used to fucking Thor Love and Thunder and shit. You know what I mean? Thor Love and Thunder. You can't watch Thor Love and Thunder and then watch the first season of Daredevil. You'll have a fucking aneurysm.
In the best way possible, though.
But yeah, and D'Onofrio is he's just incredible. I'm so glad he's back in the fold, whether it's in Hawkeye or Echo, which I haven't actually watched yet. I really should.
Yeah, I think you'll probably like his portrayal in Echo more, because they're like actual ties to season 1.
Yeah, right. I'll try and do it before we do season 3, so we can touch on a little bit. Maybe that'll be my what have I been watching sort of for that episode. But and in terms of its, this show was created by Drew Goddard, and then he ended up leaving, and some other people took over. Stephen K. Knight, I think, was one of the guys, or Stephen S. DeKnight. Stephen S. DeKnight. Nessie. I don't know. Some of the writers who took over had worked in comics and worked on shows like Buffy and Angel and all that kind of stuff. It has a pretty good pedigree, but it plays more like Law and Order in a lot of places. The actual law stuff is really cool. they're really helping people. And it's, Matt's credo of helping the people who can't help themselves kind of thing. You have the staples of Josie's Bar and whatnot. But in terms of the way that it looks, the way that it's photographed is really beautiful. Like, it's really capturing the starkness, in the daytime, and then the really, really deep, rich blacks of the nighttime. And the blood is very real, and that scene where he's fighting in the rain with the ninja, it's so, every episode is so beautifully staged and shot. Like, it's not shot like TV; it's shot cinematically.
Yeah, like the cinematography of the entire show is it's top notch, and it's consistent. Like season 1, episode 1. This is the shit that you're in, and it doesn't go down ever. And also, just to talk about Vincent D'Onofrio, because I fucking love that fucking portrayal of Kingpin. Like the choice of just like the reason why he's so intimidating is that his only tactic is manipulation, and he wears that loud and proud. Like the shit he pulls with fucking Point Dexter in season 3. Like, and you see like the Kingpin that you see like the progression of Kingpin that would do that in season 1, and like, just sure, he's strong. Like my biggest like sort of dumb summarization of his character is that he's a giant baby with the strength of 1,000 men.
That's pretty accurate.
Because you see him lash out like an actual baby, and it's scary. It is.
Yeah, it is terrifying.
Yeah, but also there are moments when you see him like nervous, like just like around Vanessa, and like the scene where he like asks her out for dinner, and she's like, I'm busy tonight," and he's like, maybe another time. He just kind of walks up, rubbing his fingers. So it's
sort of with his head down, and she's like, "Really? You're going to give up that easily?" She's great too, like such a good representation of that character. She also played Lara Jor-El in Man of Steel, I think. Is that the same actress?
Oh my god! No? Yes.
Is it? But look that up. Let's look that up and just make sure so that the internet doesn't scream at me later on. Not that we really have those kind of fans, but. Yeah, I mean, he is a child. He's stunted. He was, he murdered his father, and he's stuck at that age. And that's where the rage comes from. He solved his greatest problem with violence. So why wouldn't that work every time? And it works for her as well, where he's like, this is what I do. This is what we are. Where after he has the dinner and it doesn't go so well, and then he has her around to his house, and all of the factories blow up, and she's watching it, and he's like, they kidnapped a child, and they're drug runners, and they're bad people, and now I'm taking care of them. And she says, good. Like, he's found in life this person who will support the version of him that he wants to be, or the version of him that he can't help but be. So much going on for a villain, as opposed to, I just want money and power, or I want power because it's power. Like, what difference does that make? He wants it because he thinks that New York, and Hell's Kitchen in particular, is a fucking cesspool, and he's very, very happy to wipe everybody out who's in the way, or use everybody who's in the way. And Daredevil's just in the way. He's not even really a problem for him until the end. And even then, he gets around it pretty fucking quickly. Like, he's incredibly he's smarter than Matt is. Matt reacts on impulse. Like, Fisk reacts on impulse, but in a calculated way, in a way that he's like, I'm not gonna murder this guy in front of Vanessa. I'm gonna take him out, and I'm gonna fucking crack his head open with a car. Whereas Matt is purely on instinct, and I think that speaks to his power set as well. Like, he has to be instinctual because that's how his senses work.
Absolutely. Also, yeah, you're right. She plays Clark Kent's biological mother.
Yep. There you go. She's the first thing you see in Man of Steel. She's sitting there and giving the birth.
Yeah.
Such a great actress as well. As far as the the law stuff goes, it really is well integrated. They have cases which are related to and then not related to. Like, you've got that hitman who ends up killing himself, who's really smug, who beats the guy to death with a bowling ball. They have to defend him. And I love all the in-court stuff. It happens a bit more in season 2 with the trial of Frank Castle, but we'll get to that. Let's talk about Karen for a second, because this is not the way that the character is introduced in the comics. She's introduced as a client because she's implicated in a murder. And Deborah Ann Wall plays frightened and vulnerable so well, but she grows to be stronger than both of them, really, Foggy and Matt. I love this portrayal of Karen. She does have a past. Karen is famously a heroin addict, and she's in the comics. She sells out Matt to Wilson, tells him that Daredevil is Matt Murdock for a hit, and for a hit of heroin, and ends up getting killed by Bullseye, which is just the episode of the comic book issue of her funeral. Is one of the most gripping and striking comic books I've ever read. It starts with Matt sitting on the end of a bed with a gun in his hand, trying not to kill himself. And at her funeral, he gets up and stands behind the pulpit and doesn't say anything. And he just goes over, puts his hand on the coffin and says, "I'll miss you." And that's all. It's so powerful. It's the best writing Kevin Smith has ever done. Let me put it that way. Beautifully rendered. And the wanting to go after Bullseye. He's such an impulsive character in the comics as well. So damaged and yeah, so many layers. There's so much going on for him. But back to the show. You said to me, Foggy as well, who's great. This guy plays him really well as well. It's kind of like he's the comedy foil, but then when he does find out that Matt is Daredevil, he's so mad at him. And rightly so. Best friends have been hiding something. Like, he could have told him. In a lot of ways. You said to me that you feel the same way about this group of characters as you do about the mutants. I don't think... Those of you who know Addy well know how big of a statement that is. Those of you who don't and are just fans of this podcast and only know him via that need to know that is some wild shit. That is like someone saying their entire life they've only liked chocolate ice cream, and then they finally try vanilla and go, "Oh, actually, that's pretty on point as well." What?
Okay. This is weird because that actually happened to me. So...
You're a man of many flavors. I like that about you. You just try new things and you're like, yeah, I like that or I don't like that. You're a positive human being. My hair is just spectacular this morning. So tell me about that. Tell me about, this dynamic of these people. What is it about them that makes you feel that way?
Yeah, it's hard to like. It's the equivalent of you asking me why I like the X-Men. Like,
why wouldn't I? Of course, I like the X-Men.
Yeah, but okay. First of all, I want to talk about that episode and then get into why I like these characters so much.
Which episode?
So the episode where Foggy finds out that he's Daredevil. Right.
Yep. Yeah. Sure.
I see a lot of people not taking Foggy seriously. Foggy is the person in the show that I relate to the most.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is literally me. Yeah, because I've had people like Matt Murdock in my life. Like, not to that extent, but yeah.
The word vigilante.
Let's, I was going to say something really bad. Let's not.
That's all right. We'll skip it. Yeah, I understand though. Like, you can, you see yourself in him, and that's what good characters do.
But yeah, like Foggy Nelson telling Matt Murdock that he wouldn't have hid that from him, and when he walks away and you see Matt Murdock cry, that's not something you will see ever. Like, especially like male platonic relationships, that's really hard to find. And like that episode is structured as a breakup. Like, you feel these people who, like, Matt loves Foggy, and Foggy loves Matt so much more than Matt could ever understand. And you see them go through a breakup to a point where, like, it hurts even more in season 2 with what happens. and you see Foggy like trying so hard to not let his best friend fall into his addiction, because that's, for me at least, that's what Daredevil is for Matt. And you like that flashback of him and Matt just having fun in college is like, it's one of my favorite episodes of all time.
Avocados at law.
Yeah, like it was on my screensaver throughout the fucking, like throughout my watching of the show. It was Nelson Murdoch, Avocados at law, because I love it so much. I love it so much because it's so goofy and like, but you also see Matt hiding things from him in that flashback too. But Jesus Christ is the only time you see Matt smile in the entire show.
And he's got the fop of hair, and they briefly talk about the Greek girl that he dated, which is Elektra. The series plays itself as with them as that's the love interest kind of situation, because Karen's not really like that happens more in season 2 than anything, and it's sort of, they're kind of touching on it, but you don't know which way it's going to go. You know, because they've got that, Foggy and Karen have that thing going on with the woman in the tenement, and that sort of, you think, oh, is that going to happen there? And then Matt's so dedicated to his crusade, you know, and he sort of pops it away with some young attractive ladies, like the night nurse, you know, Rosario Dawson's character. But it really is about him and Foggy. It's their relationship and how that is affected by Matt's choices, not so much to be Daredevil, but yeah, that he would not have told him. And they only have each other, you know. That's the thing, you know. Matt doesn't have a family. Foggy doesn't really have a family, not that he talks about, you know. And it's about you see the best of them, and then you see the worst of them, and then they're the best of themselves again, you know, and the understanding. Yeah, such a great dynamic, and again, so well cast. Everybody's got great chemistry. They really get along, and clearly in real life too. Otherwise, they wouldn't all come back for this new show.
Absolutely, yeah. And they wouldn't like Vincent D'Onofrio wouldn't have lobbied for Eldon Henson and Deborah and Wolf to be part of Daredevil Born Again. Like that's partially because of him that both of them are in that show.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work without them. Like, I don't understand why you would even attempt to make that without having that character, because that's what the show is. It was that trinity of them at Josie's bar at the end of the day, going, "Hey, wow, what an adventure," kind of situation, you know. Sorry, I'm just hop out from under there, buddy. Little putty cat come to say hello again. You're a big putty cat, ain't you, mate? Hey, buddy. Yeah, and it's then it also gives Matt threat, because he's like, Kingpin's like, I don't care who I have to hurt. I'll hurt them. I'll hurt all of them. I'll hurt everybody, and you can't stop me. Yeah, such a great villain, and even more so than, you know, a physical. I mean, he is a physical threat to Matt because he fights like a motherfucker. But ninjas and stuff aside, whatever, Matt gets into a lot of brawls with people who can't match him. But yeah, matching him intellectually even less. But Kingpin is on top of him every single time, and you see that again in season 2 and season 3, where he just can't beat this guy. He just keeps getting more and more chances, and that's an ongoing thing. Kingpin was created as a Spider-Man villain, and so he's just lying down now. And he was folded into Daredevil by Frank Miller, if I remember correctly, and it was always should have been that, you know. Batman has the Joker, Superman has Lex Luthor, and Daredevil absolutely has Kingpin. They are synonymous with each other, and it's that thing. They're going to just be doing this forever and ever, for long after we're gone. Matt and Wilson are going to be fighting, and it's beautiful. I love the evolution of their story together, and Matt in particular in this, like, as he like, at first he's just a brawler, like he's martial arts and he can kick people's asses and all that kind of stuff, and he's just fighting street level things, and then he discovers this grand plan that's going on, mostly about drugs and money and all this. And then all of a sudden he's got billy clubs. It's like, oh, these work pretty good. He uses a pipe in the first episode. And then all of a sudden he's got these billy clubs. And then the fixer guy makes him the actual stick that comes apart, and there's also a staff. And then it also becomes a means of transport. It's got the cabling in it. And then he gets the costume. It's like the evolution of that character. It's an origin story that's just spread over 13 episodes. Like, you meet him and he's already Daredevil. Then you get the backstory of where, like, you don't see the moment that he puts on the mask, but you get the idea. And then he slowly becomes the Daredevil that we end up knowing, who is the Devil of Hell's Kitchen. The Guardian Devil, which was the name of the story arc that Kevin Smith wrote on. And yeah, I'm so glad that it's coming back. But I will always go back to these. I watch these seasons, particularly 1 and 2, probably once every 18 months to 2 years. And it was so great that I happened to do a rewatch, and you were like, I'm going to get into that too, because we get to talk about it, and it's wonderful.
I don't think there's like a show that actually treats its characters with respect as much as the show did, because, like, there's respect in writing these characters, but, like, these characters have respect for each other. Like, yeah, Wilson Fisk is like a bad motherfucker, but, like, Matt respects him for his methods, like, not like what he does, but just like the like, it's not name calling. It's like when it's like, if you watch a good boxing match, you know that these two fighters, well, could, like, put on a show, but they do have mutual respect. You can feel that and not necessarily see all of it.
Yeah, I think particularly for Fisk, like, looking at Daredevil and being like, this is a formidable adversary for me, and there haven't been many. I'm unchallenged a lot of the time. He has people that he has to answer to, like Owsley and Madame Gao and all that stuff. But yeah, he's not often set upon by people, so much so that nobody knew who he was. He was unnamed. And also, just to come back to it, when Wesley gets killed,
yes,
well, Wesley goes missing and they find him, and it turns out to be Karen that shot him. But I mean, he was going to kill her, so fair game. And then he finds him. He beats the shit out of one of his own men for not protecting Wesley, and his grief is real. He's like, he doesn't work for me. He's my friend. And he says it because he's the only friend he has in the world. And then, like, his loyalty is undying. Like, Wesley is the only person who can actually challenge his point of view or talk to him the way that you would talk to somebody who is a peer and not your boss and also a master criminal. And I love that actor. He's really great. The scene where he comes in and he shows that guy the video of his daughter.
Yeah.
The live feed. There's so much going on for everybody. There's so many layers. I get excited about it every time I think about it. I just love the imagery, and just the music's fantastic as well. Like, the score is really rich and gritty, and the boxing stuff as well. Like, the end of episode 1 where it's the Daredevil theme, and he's just hitting that bag, and you just see all the crime going on. Everything that he's fighting against. And he's a one man alone kind of sort of situation, and I just dig that. If they had have just done that and not done any of the other shows, like, I really liked Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage was great too. I didn't really like Iron Fist. It was just bad acting in my opinion. Definitely would have still worked even if they hadn't made those other shows.
Yeah, I see that. That's why I haven't watched, like, any of them.
Yeah,
like,
you don't need to really.
Yeah, I got most of it from Defenders, which I watched because like, I was hearing a podcast and they said that season 3 starts with, like, the aftermath of Defenders.
Yeah, it kind of dovetails, but then once you get past the first episode or two, it kind of resets itself and you're on the next adventure kind of thing. Yeah, definitely.
But also,
as long as you understand what happened in season 2, where he reveals himself to Karen and whatnot.
Yeah, And like also
not in a rude way. Not like, hey Karen, do you like this? Do you like my Daredevil? Do you like my Billy Club? And she's like, that's your cock and balls, Matt. That's really inappropriate. We're about to go into court. He's like, whatever. I've got on your panties. That's fucked up. You are wearing my underwear, aren't you? I know we're dating and everything, but that's a little bit unusual. If you're not to tell me at least, I might have been into it. Sorry, I've been so serious talking about Daredevil, I had to throw in some sex gags. Anyway, love you guys. Nonsense.
Can you imagine, like, Matt, cut this part out because it's so fucking... it's so...
I probably won't.
Can you imagine?
We shall see.
Like, Matt takes off his pants and, like, he has, like double D, but...
his balls?
No, he's like he has two dicks, but like they're like the horns on his helmet, so they're like that.
Or he's got horns on the tip of his penis. Like, oh, that's gonna be weird going in. What are you, a cat? That's fucking unusual. All this wholesome chat about a show that we both really legitimately love, and we get to horn penis.
Hey, you know what? This can come back because I have a way this can come back, right? Because the last time we see Matt Murdock, he's in the same scene as Bruce Banner, who famously has a pink dick with big green foreskin.
Big green balls, yeah. And it's a pink dick with big foreskin. God, we've had some strange times. I had to clear season 1 off of my working hard drive. I've got it backed up on stuff, obviously, but I had to clear that season because it was like 100 gig, all the audio we record. We record in high, like in WAV files, and they're a little bit bigger. I had to clear that to make room for the new stuff, that we're doing all the time. And I just looking back at those episodes, I'm like, fuck, like we're getting close to 50. It's going to be a good time. We'll have to do something special. Maybe 50 is the Jaws Mentary.
Yep.
Maybe episode 50. That might be the idea. Let us know what you think, everybody. Yeah. Anyway, Daredevil season 1. It really is some of the best writing and the best cinematography that Marvel's ever done. Definitely some of the best acting, best casting, great costumes, great choreography. There's no. Some people say it's a bit long. I disagree. I don't think there's a weak episode in the whole series. It must be checked out. It's all on Disney Plus, streaming in 4K, can't be missed. I just want to ask you before we wrap up season 1, what are your 3 favorite moments, scenes, lines, anything? Just give me 3 of the best. Don't even think about it. Just pop, 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 pop.
Matt crying while Foggy leaves him. That's number 1. Everything with Ben Urich or Ben Urich.
So great.
We didn't talk a lot about Ben Urich because he's a really minor part of season 1. And I wish that's
super critical though. I mean, Karen doesn't develop much, and she ends up almost taking his place at the Globe. But also, the thing about him being the old newsie who's wants to still be the investigative journalist and not do these puff pieces on what's going on in the transit authority or whatever. And he just wants to pay the bills to keep his ailing wife in hospital. Like, again, a C character in the story, and yet he gets a proper arc. And unfortunately, is he goes. They find Wilson's fine. They find Wilson Fisk's mother, and to get his backstory, and Wilson finds out, and he fucking murders him with his bare hands. It's outrageous.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, man. Spoilers. So Ben Urich, all the stuff that he does, is that number 2 you said?
Yeah. So everything with Ben Urich, but especially the sort of relationship that Matt starts building as Daredevil with him, that we would then go on and see with the NYPD guy.
The one who Foggy went to school with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see Matt trusting a lot more in that suit, and we'll come back to that in season 2 and why. Yeah, just.
Yeah. Absolutely. And number 3?
Just episode 13, season 1. The score of like the heroic score when he beats Fisk, which is like an integration of the theme, like the Daredevil theme and the intro music. And yeah, like yeah, but
the opening credits are fucking great too.
Yeah.
Like this kind of weird. It's not supposed to be blood, I don't think, but it's this. It's all the New York skyline and stuff dripping with red, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I guess to me it symbolized like the chemical spill on Matt, and like
oh yeah, very true. Yeah, right on. Amazing. For me, the keys are absolutely the hallway fight. Is number 3. That just practical in-camera. It's funny. I went and saw the Groundhog Day musical, and I'll talk about it a bit next episode. As in What Are We Watching? Groundhog Day the musical, written music and lyrics by Tim Minchin, who's an Australian comedian musician, and it was wonderful. I loved it so much. During one of the songs, which is paralleling the movie in the section where Bill Murray gives up and just tries to kill himself, but every time he does, he keeps waking up again in the same day. He's like, I can't even kill myself. That is a song. And during that song, there was a bunch of like changes where he had to end up in the bed, again and again and again. And they did it by having the bed have a false bottom, and you would get underneath it. And they would do a Texas switch, which is where in camera you swap out an actor for a stuntman. And they kept doing that. And I only caught 2 of them. And then the last one, he throws a blanket up and someone else caught it and he ducked down and then got off stage somehow and got into his full weatherman outfit and got back out on stage as a ensemble member and turned around and it was him. And I was like, holy shit. It bordered on the supernatural. That kind of, it's not in camera because it was a stage production, but that kind of in camera practical cutting, finding edit spaces, having a camera on a rig that you can manipulate so that it works, and having actors just play, and a focus puller who's really good at his job. Like that stuff makes me so happy, especially in the days where, if you were to do that now, half of the people in that would be CG. They'd all be on green screen. You know what I mean? Like it just, they wouldn't. And it's probably budgetary. They were like, we need to keep this simple. Let's do it as, a one-er, but we'll do it in 3 takes, and just switch the camera around. Just incredible. Matt, as a blind child, stitching up his dad, because, and then later on saying, my dad, taught me how to do this when he's helping Claire. That's definitely a bit of a high watermark as well. And that scene as well where he's talking to Claire and he describes it's like a world on fire, and you see the way that he sees, and how lonely that must be, to not be able to see color or light the way that we do. And, it's such a gift and people take it for granted so often. It's just such a commonality that we just don't even think about it. And I think probably number 1, and call me a softie, and I know he's a villain and everything, but you've seen Wilson Fisk's morning routine time and time again throughout the season. He's making the omelette. He's got the little bit of salt. He's got his kimono on. He lifts it up gently like that kind of stuff. And it's all happening. And he sits down to eat it. And enter camera left Vanessa. And she comes and sits down and kisses him on the cheek. And she sits down to have an omelette. And she has coffee. And he, you know what I mean? Like that, it just... Now, all of a sudden, he has a reason to fight as well, like even more than he already did. It's not about power. It's not about acquisitiveness. It's not about money. It's about protecting the woman that he loves. Everybody can understand that, even if he is a horrible mass murderer. Yeah. So there we go, folks. Daredevil Season 1. Check it out if you haven't already. And if you haven't already, the fuck are you doing listening to our show? Like, this is prime Film Addicts nerd shit that we're talking about. Before we go, though, we're going to have to do some questions.
Yep.
I'm assuming there's some questions.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yep.
There's questions. So questions today, are they Daredevil related or are they just anything?
No, Daredevil related.
Wonderful. Let's do some DDs. Let's do some double D questions.
I will never be able to say that and not think of what horrible shit I thought of. That's
bosoms. Can't say bosoms, Riggs. Come on, mate. All right, let's do it. Question number 1.
Yeah, hold on just a minute.
How many woods could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
4?
Sure. I don't know. I've never met a woodchuck before. I think it's kind of a groundhog. I don't know.
No, as in we've got 4 questions.
Oh, right. You answered my question. That's how many woodchucks a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah. 4. Wonderful. 4 questions. Question the number 1.
What's your favorite character arc in season 1?
Character arc? It's Wilson's. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised by it. The only villain that the MCU has had that even comes close to having a purpose is Thanos. Like a drive. And even he was, he was a mad titan. He was after power mostly.
Yeah.
And not as well drawn as this, even over 2 pictures or, incidentals throughout. But yeah, definitely Wilson's.
Yeah, I think another villain that could rival villain air quotes could rival or like just have an arc in MCU is Loki.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I haven't really watched that show, so I'm not really too familiar with that. But I think I think where he ends up. I mean, he should have probably stayed dead. But anyway. I don't know, it just sort of takes the teeth out of that. A lot of the Marvel decisions that they make, it's like, are they Infinity Stones in someone's fucking drawer? Like, really? In Loki season 1, there's like Infinity Stones in someone's desk.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, way to take the teeth out of something. You know what I mean? Especially with these all-powerful things and someone's got a bunch of them in their drawer. Anyway, I don't disagree with you, but I don't 100% agree either.
If you had to lose one of your senses but got superpowers, what would you lose and what would you gain?
Taste. I would lose taste. And the ability that I would gain would be that I could eat whatever the fuck I wanted and not put on any weight. Wait, that doesn't make sense because I wouldn't be able to taste it, so it wouldn't matter. I could eat fucking cloves all day. All right, hang on. Let me reset and think again. Definitely taste, though, I think. Like, my hearing and my sight is too important to everything I like, and I like sense memory. Like a factory is a sense is a factory sense is the greatest recall for memory. You smell the perfume or you smell some flowers or you smell fresh cut grass, and it can take you back to a memory. So I wouldn't want to give that up. So definitely give up taste. But what I would get in return would be I'm an amazing chef. Like I just know all the cookbooks that have ever been written all of a sudden.
That's pretty cool.
So I can give food to other people. Be like, here, enjoy this delicious meal, but I can't have it because I can't taste anything.
Yeah.
And I'm so tortured. And no, I can't see with this stocking over my head either. I don't know why I'm wearing it. My sight's perfectly fine.
It's just it's the practice of the art.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in character. So, what would yours be?
I would lose the ability to sense pain and gain the ability to be more acrobatic.
Okay, that's a good one. Doing flips, and if you hurt yourself doing them flips, you wouldn't know any better.
Exactly.
Yep. That's like kick-ass.
Shit. Now you don't like it, do you?
No. I don't like kick-ass, but I like your idea. I'd watch kick-ass if you were in it, for sure. Very different film. Much more heart, for sure. Question 3? Question
3 is from our friend Juan from To the End of the Line podcast.
What's up, Juan? How you doing, my brother? I was talking to him this morning, actually.
Right. This question is, did you enjoy the anticipation to see Daredevil's costume? Or were you anxious to see it?
No, I like the long... Like, once I got into it, and I realised that development that would slowly happen, like... First, he starts out with the costume that can't really protect him at all because he's kind of a little cockier than he should be. And then he wraps rope around himself and then he starts using projectiles and you know what I mean? And he slowly realizes that he needs armor because he's fighting ninjas who have a better skill than him. And she's like, you need to get better armor, and then he finds out that Wilson Fisk has it. Like, the development of where it would happen is quite natural. It's like in the second Batman film where he's like, I need a better suit because I'm carrying too much weight, you know? I need to be faster and more agile. It's such a great progression. And I dig the suit a lot. Like, the suit from the Daredevil picture from the early 2000s with Ben Affleck, the Mark Steven Johnson picture, which I rewatched recently, and it's totally fine. Especially the director's cut. It's pretty good. I like that costume, which is more sort of, it's kind of fetishy and leather, and I don't know, I dig it. But what he's wearing as in this it's battle armor, and it makes a fucking ton of sense. Like, if you're trying to think about it practically. So yeah, no, I liked the anticipation. I wasn't waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, same. I like the progression of it, even though I don't quite like the way the suit looks, but I like the progression of, you know, him getting the ropes and like trying to kill Fisk, and figuring out that he wears an armor, and then hunting down the armor.
That's a great part of that too, where he's talking to the priest. He's, you know, because the priest who sort of reoccurs, and he goes to see him in confessional and stuff. You know, I need forgiveness not for what I've done, but what I will do. And he's having that debate with himself. He's like, do I have to kill this man? Do I have to kill Wilson Fisk in order to win this fight? Like, that's such a great obstacle to put in front of a hero, especially one who's a Catholic, because he's sinning all the time. His life is sin. And if you believe that, like, he absolutely believes in God and the devil, and you know what I mean? Like, it's a real... I had a great conversation with a Christian the other day, and we were talking for like an hour about theology and all this kind of shit, and I'm agnostic at best, you know, but it was such an interesting conversation, like the processing of faith and where it comes from and why you have it and why it's important to you. All that kind of stuff is really, really cool to me. Whether you like it, whether you believe it or not, it's interesting to talk to people who do. And yeah, Matt is absolutely one of those, and his life is in such like conflict with the basic nature of who he is. It's really, really impressive that they were able to hold on to that, because it could have been something that they just gave up. He's the only Catholic superhero I know, you know.
But then again, some people would say that Superman's Catholic, so...
Superman's Jewish, if he's anything.
Yep.
No, I'm serious. That's the story. It's the story of Moses. He was, you know, sent down the river in a basket. Or it's the story of, like, Jesus. They are a great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. They just lack the light to show the way. For this reason, above all, for their capacity for good, I have sent them you, my only son. Like, come on.
Well, that's the end of the entire show then. Like,
see you later.
Like, we can't ever.
Was there another question though?
Yeah, we can't ever get better than that. Like, that was perfect.
That's one of the most incredible lines ever written. You know, give it up to Mario Puzo, who wrote the Superman 78 movie. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, for this reason, above all, their capacity for good, I've sent them you, my only son. Like, human beings' capacity for good is just, yeah, it gives me chills every time I hear it. Sorry, number 4. We're talking about soups. Minestrone, pumpkin, Thai chili, basil and tomato. If you were a soup, what soup would you be?
That's the first question you ever asked me.
I've asked you heaps of questions. You mean on mic?
No, that was the first question you ever asked me. Like,
shut up.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
What was your answer?
I think I said like sweet corn soup.
Ooh, yeah. No, that's absolutely what you'd be. Just sweet and warm and cherishable. You know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What's question number 4? Just everybody out there, what soup are you? It's a really good leveler. It's a great icebreaker for like conversations with people you haven't met as well. So if you're a cheese, my wife likes, what cheese would you be? And you're like, oh, you would be a tasty cheddar. You know, that kind of thing. Like, it's just, people really think about it, and more than they probably need to. But anyway, question number 4, perhaps?
I have a weird pick for that, though. Like,
for the cheese?
Yeah.
Right here, right? This is what cheese Addy is, everyone.
No, it's okay, probably, sure. But when I was like pre-teen years, I used to love cheese. Still do, but like not as much. I used to love Australian goat cheese.
Australian go. It's like you knew. It's like you knew that one day you would be on a podcast with an Australian.
And you know what? I don't know if it still fucking exists or not, but there was a show called...
We still have goats, yeah. There's a bunch, if any. There's probably more than there were when... Probably more goats now than there were back then when you were having it, so...
Yeah. There's this show called Play School or Playtime on Australian Network that I used to watch every single...
Play School.
Yeah.
It's an institution, mate, yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch it like every day before school.
Yeah. Great show. Just a shout out to my mate Leo too from Movies on Weed. I drop him some records sometimes, just like little mini reviews that he drops into his episodes. And he just recently did an episode on Mega Man with some other guests, and he put my little review of Fifth Element at the end of it. And he in his thanks to me, he was just like, you know, Riggs is this Aussie dude, and he's just great every time. It was one of the nicest things anybody said to me about being a podcaster, because I just do this for fun. Like, I don't even know if I'm any good at it. Like, I just like doing it. And to hear another podcaster... So, I mean, I suppose I've been on a lot of other people's shows and they have me back, so I must be doing something right. But I don't really think about myself that way. And just to hear Leo be like, he's this fucking hysterical Aussie guy, made me feel not only happy and proud about who I am, but also about my heritage, as if it has something to do with it. You know what I mean? Maybe we do have good senses of humour down here. I don't know. But anyway, love you, Leo. Thanks, mate. Did anybody just hear that cat? I'm going to have to go and feed him in a minute. Go.
All right, question 4. Netflix started trying to using Asian kinetic wonder sequences. What would you like to use next?
Netflix started using Asian kinetic wonders. This is from Chaz, isn't it?
Yep.
I fucking knew it. I knew it. I know you, Chaz. I can hear your voice, my brother. Thank you, my friend. So what trend would I like them to see them use? In other shows, you mean? Okay. Some of the fucking mad drone shit that, what's his name? Michael Bay was using in the film Ambulance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Some of that fucking crazy shit, for sure.
Yeah. I'll pick just like shoot on fucking location for once, please.
Oh. Take all my money. Yeah, just like, can we do it somewhere? Like, I know that you know, Steve Sadek from the We Hate Movies podcast said of the Daredevil TV show, we not shoot in the same 4 warehouses every episode? Like, I totally get that. But, you know, at least they were there. That's New York in the background. You know, I did that so much. So, yeah, a little bit more drone, a little bit more location, folks. Location. I started talking French during boxing today. I was talking like this, and we have a fight with boxing. And Alex goes, "You sound like Bon Voyage from The Incredibles," and he's my favorite. Remember Bon Voyage? It is me, Bon Voyage.
Yeah. Fuck, that blew my mind. I see it now.
Yeah. I didn't even know I had a French. You know, you sometimes you do things and they just happen. And I just started talking like that. And she was like, yeah, Bon Voyage. I didn't know I had a Bon Voyage in my bag. Now I've got one of those. If anybody's ever like, oh my God, this man's drowning. Can someone please save him? Does anybody have a Bon Voyage impersonation they can do while they save him? I'll be halfway swimming there, mate, because I'm a good swimmer. I'm swimming out there. I'm going, I will get him. It's no problem. I have 2 baguettes that will float us to the side.
That's a reference to Jaws every time.
Yeah, of course. What else? Episode 50, everyone. Stand by. So that's it, folks. Daredevil Season 1 and a bunch of other really strange shit. Thank you so much for playing. We appreciate you. And come back next fortnight and we'll be talking about Season 2. Then we'll have a little bit of a gap between there when we do an episode on Dune with my main man, Tommy. And then we'll come back for Season 3 and maybe a little Defenders catch up as well if I can be bothered watching it before then. So thanks very much again. Addy.
I love you.
I love you too, buddy. The hair again, it's fantastic. I'm kind of growing mine out a little bit as well, so we're going to be brothers soon. Or twins, rather. But until that time, remember.
Stay amazing. Stay safe. I don't have anything else.
You've got nothing. No, I love it. I love it. That's great.